Good morning, guys. We don't normally do streams on Wednesday, but I thought it wise today to have a look at BNB ecosystem coins, seeing that BNB is pushing up really nicely at the moment and is in all-time high territory or price discovery territory. So if you look at the BNB chart, it's turning into a gold, straight line to the upside. Funny thing, while I was looking at this, doesn't BNB look a lot like Bitcoin, in the beginning? Sorry, let me just bring this chart up. I was just asking our guest at the back to make sure his charts have moved up, and now I haven't done it. But isn't this a lot like Bitcoin? So this adoption that is happening in BNB will probably follow the Bitcoin path. So in short, from a pure fractal point of view, we're only a few cycles old. BNB still has a lot of legs to go. Now, am I saying $10,000 a BTC, a BNB? I'm not going to try and go there just yet. We're not trying to predict, but we're just looking at where the potentials would be. Now, before we head over to the alts and the BNB coins that I want to share, I just want to do a quick recap on Bitcoin, where we're at, so that everybody is on the same page regarding the channel's sentiment regarding where we are, bull market, where we are with our micro alts, medium alts, all those kind of things. So I'm going to be brief with this. So Monday, I gave you guys two plays. I said, well, we had on Bitcoin on the weekly a crazy liquidation, and the argument is that this weekly liquidation wick, there's two things that needs to happen. Option A would be we close. So I'm just going to zoom into an option A there for you guys. Option A is that this week, now we're in the overlap phase. So we're overlapping where that wick is created. So that option A is that the close of this week is above $115,000 a BTC. That means that our play then would be to say that any of the dips that precede that, okay, meaning we close above this area, we probably chop around, we wick back into this area, those would be buy the dip opportunities and needs to be treated as bullish, as a bullish way. Option B was the alternative close, and that's the sad one, that if we close below the liquidation like we did there, it means that we will potentially go test lower lows, which then opens the door for Bitcoin to migrate probably down to, say, 105 best case scenario, and even in the 80s worst case scenario, before we go and try and test highs or lows, highs or try push all-time highs. Now, it's just as a fractal reminder as well, guys, when you look at where we are in relation to the previous bull market, it could be that price then goes and does a crazy flush, just wrecks everybody. A lot of people felt wrecked at that stage. And then all of a sudden, coins went back to where they were, all-time highs and even higher, which just cemented that complacency in the market. And I warned you guys against complacency because, when the writing's clearly on the wall and something else is pushing all-time highs, like COAI, it's like it creates the question where you're going to ask yourself, is there really truly something wrong with this market? Because this is clearly pumping, money is there, and so complacency is a very tricky thing to navigate emotional wise. It's always easy to pinpoint it after the fact, and for those that are maybe new to this, that's the emotional market cycle. So complacency is very back me. I think we never set up that one. It's fine. We've just got it halfway. But complacency is just like that. Okay, so now we're going to bring up our guest. Let's just quickly say hi to everybody. It's a very low viewership today. So please, guys, do the retweet, do the share. This is out of our normal schedule. So obviously a lot of people don't know we are live. So it's on you to try and boost the engagement for the stream, so we can get as many people in and help them with as much information as possible. Remember, this channel doesn't give financial advice. I'm purely just laying it out and see if it plays out that way. So do your own research. And yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's bring up our guest. Wizzard, how are you doing, my friend?
Hello. I'm good, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
I'm fine. As you know, it's kind of like 50-50 on Bitcoin. So if you look at this chart here, it's like, is it gonna, isn't it not? I've got a long currently. In this long, it's about $500 in profit. I don't know how to make this squish it over. but yeah, it's about $500. It's only one Bitcoin. It's one at 112 thereabouts. So fingers crossed that we do go to at least 118 minimum for this run. So that's me at this stage. But where you at? Where's your thoughts at regarding Bitcoin and your feelings around that?
Yeah, I'm quite bullish. So I had a zone marked out on Bitcoin that I'm happy to play in. So this is one of my working Bitcoin charts. This is for me. Anytime we come anywhere near to this was a beautiful pocket of liquidity. I caught a lovely long here. Obviously, we came back down, cleared all of this out, and then it just provided two very nice opportunities to take a similar long. So I went long from here. As you can see, yeah, I came to it. You can just see like the beautiful little
fighting it, and now it's turning it into support. So it's a clear SR flip, as they would normally say.
So this was a nice zone. I'm bullish. I'm happy to play it level by level. For me, my focus is probably more Ethereum than Bitcoin. But
why would you say that then? Maybe for the audience.
I think for me, I've sold quite a lot of my spot Bitcoin now anyway, but I find the opportunity in Ethereum. I think Bitcoin will have its price discovery, and I think Bitcoin will have a run where it goes absolutely crazy. I just find Ethereum a little bit more juicy. There's a lot more levels to play. For me, I'm finding it. I don't think trading's ever easy, but because we're not yet in that price discovery phase, there's still quite a lot of old historical levels to play on Ethereum. So one of the simple drawings I've got drawn out is essentially the theory that I worked on. If I put it onto the weekly, and it's really interesting to see this at play. It's probably drawn out on one of my other charts, but if you look, basically you draw a box over where we got to previous cycle.
Yeah,
you can see that the price, barring a couple of wicks below, has been kept in that exact range. Obviously, there's a lot of exchanges and market makers who have trades to unwind from this area. And so when we pushed up into this area, it's quite bullish. We took this top, but I expected some quite heavy chop around inside here as they begin to unwind. There's also some really interesting patterns in terms of where and what prices this has been accumulated by some quite large players, namely an orange man that sits in the White House. You can see where I think if you sort of know what to look for when you sort of see institutional OTC and market making, you can see exactly where this has been accumulated. This, I think, is something that stands out to me as I think the market makers have done a fantastic job. Like the amount of capital that is required to keep that there. But during that period, there will have been an instruction of, we want to buy X Ethereum and we want to pay this price for it. And as you can see, whilst the volatility takes it out, that's quite a clear area of where the price was accumulated for those larger there. And then you liquidate and then you move. And you can start to see a little bit more on the daily, a similar pattern there. So as long as this price stays in this range here, the market makers and the OTCs can peddle a bullish narrative on an institutional lens. And that, to me, feels like an area where they've been instructed to sell a price. I think that's quite a good price if you're doing OTC, because there's enough juice left in it for the market makers to take their cut on top. It's bullish enough to tempt people in, and it also gives you room to take it out to the downside to take out any longs. So yeah, I just find the price action on Ethereum really interesting. It seems to respect the levels quite well. I had this weekly level came out, marked out where we wicked down to. Before here, I had that as a buy zone. I really like this weekly level, and I think will start to slowly move up on Ethereum, fill in this gap, and then I think that Ethereum's price feels like it's being kept down, and it's being kept down.
It does feel like
so
ETH
that
is
people can get in. Yeah.
It does feel like it's heavy manipulated and suppressed for some reason. I've got a very similar view to what you have. So from my point, if you look at the weekly chart for Ethereum, so this is the 2021 all-time high. So this was your range top. And from a Wyckoff point of view, you could argue that we're going through a reaccumulation phase. So typically you will run into your preliminary stop. You'll have all your bearish divergences slow down. And then you'll have your test, and this creates the lower range. And then your secondary test, which then kind of cements that in. And then all of this from your phase A, which is roughly over there, all the way to your phase B, would typically be building your cores. So this is where the accumulation happens. Now, the area that you were pointing out to was sitting right there a little bit earlier. And that kind of falls into with the accumulation, because what happened was then we created the upper liquidity band, or an up thrust again, as such. We tested these higher ranges, and then price needed to go and look for more liquidity around these lower ranges. So you can see that there's the midpoint for this whole accumulation that sits right there underneath your OTC manipulation pocket that you were pointing out to. And from that point onwards, we've left the range. So now we're out of the range. So ETH for me does look really good, because we're out of the range. And typically your Wyckoff accumulation now says that you're looking for the sign of strength to happen now, SOS. And that means that we cannot close below 3,800, which was a long-term buy for me for Ethereum now, that I shared with everybody here for forever now. So for me, the guy that's still hunting for the Ethereum at 2.8, if it's there, it's almost too late, because when we're back in this range, a lot more work needs to get done. And so it is from here, you kind of want to almost draw that typical trend line and just says ETH needs to move. Needs to move or die.
Exactly. And I think it's no coincidence that the weekly candles for the last 4 weeks are all pretty much at the same level. Like, you have that obscene liquidation wick down, and look at where the weekly opened for the week. It's bang on next to it,
next to that line. So there's definitely proper engineering happening in there. So ETH is a big major player, I would believe.
Yeah, there's some interesting people that are moving this, and I think it's quite an interesting question, because I think certainly from a market making perspective, we're seeing a little bit of a changing of the guard now that we see institutions, but B more larger players than have traditionally played in the space. The price action starting to shift a little bit, and we're seeing some really interesting amounts of capital coming. I mean, gold and silver market makers, etc., are now beginning to move over, and anyone who knows anything about market making gold knows you need silly amounts of money that the human mind can barely imagine to move that. And I think we're seeing some of that move. I think we've spoken on other streams as well around, whilst these will get accumulated by institutions and central banks, the issue is the liquidity still isn't there for them to buy in the quantities that they would traditionally do. Like, you look at gold, if a central bank wants to go out and buy gold, they could buy 20, 30, $40 billion worth in 1 or 2 clips, and you'll barely notice it on a chart. Sailor buys $1 billion and you see it on the chart. It's having that liquidity to get in and out without being noticed.
That is definitely true. And so I think that's the play. So and probably BNB will at some stage suffer the same problem, because I mean, that's now Ethereum's play. So one could argue that Bitcoin did that last cycle in a way that we didn't even know to look for it. Ethereum's going through it now, and probably your BNBs and these kind of coins will have to go through those same growing pains, as we would rather almost say, into the future, you know. So let's maybe take the conversation over to BNB.
Yes.
So where you at with this? Because I made a joke jokingly to a Swede last week. I said, how do you chart the straight line? But I forget that they're very straight people, so they didn't see the joke. So he gave me a 20-minute discussion on how to chart gold at that stage, which was exceptionally informative and powerful. But yes, BNB is turning into that typical same straight line. It's breaking out. So where's your feeling on BNB?
So a lot of my BNB spot buying and trading was done down here, hence why I've got so little trading here. But I think we move in terms of sort of how to trade BNB. You move almost from, so I traditionally play a level system. It's really difficult to play a level system when you go into price discovery and the chart begins to look like this. And so I personally trading it now will move more towards how I trade gold, which is on a back test. So I'll look for areas in the chart where there's high volume, where you're likely to see a reaction. So typically, if I was to do it, is I would use something like an FRVP. I would probably scan there, and I'd say that's probably an area of interest there, as we can see quite a lot of volume. If we come down to here, and I'd zoom in and find the exact point of there. But once we get to there, you'd expect to see a reaction. So that tends to be, and then similarly up here, you've got the point of control where you're probably likely to see some sort of reaction to the downside. I don't particularly like playing BNB to the downside. Similar to gold, if I'm scalping, it's very tight shorts. Not really a train that I'd want to step in front of. But that's typically how I'd move on this. And as you can see, we've got quite an interesting void here. So you'd probably expect once price flips here to move quite quickly up into this range.
Yeah, it does make for an interesting play to push that back into at least what 1,280 thereabout.
Yeah, it's an interesting chart. I think I liken it to Tron in the fact that it's one of those charts in crypto that just does its own thing. Tron's the same. Tron will have wicks down, but it will overall go up. But it's the same principle. It's the supply is so tightly controlled on it, and it's so highly made. It does its own thing, and I mean the actual float of BNB is really small in comparison to the market cap. A lot of it is quite tightly controlled, and a lot of it is controlled by whales. There's a lot of Ethereum OGs who are quite significant holders in Binance, in BNB.
Yeah, I used to hold a lot of BNB as well. You know, back in the day, your 50 BNB gave you trading discount, gave you exchange benefits and stuff. So there were so many incentives to just buy the stuff and lock them in. And funny enough, I mean, we were buying at $30. I was buying at $5, $10, and now I'm looking at it and it's like, why did I ever sell? So it's another Bitcoin lesson, you know. It's like now with BNB, I know how the guys feel that had hundreds of Bitcoin, and today they maybe have one or two of that 100, you know. So it's the exact same thing. It's like why? I think a lot of people feel that same why. If you do, let's wake up the chat. Let's say 999. Why?
Yeah, it's just a crazy token. I think it's interesting as well because the chain is one that's not used particularly often. However, I think it's quite interesting as of late that we've seen more use cases for it. I know obviously you've got the ASTER decks where you can use BNB as your collateral for trading, which I think is quite an interesting play. Because
I like to use like Bitcoin or BNB. I've never used Ethereum though as collateral because the nice thing is if you have the coins and you say you're gonna, this is not for the viewers, already know this, but if you have the coins and you're not going to sell them, so this is the BNBs I want to live with and die with one day.
Yeah.
Collateralize that for trading, because if the market goes up, you're in the move. Your collateral grows. And yes, if you lose, obviously now there's punishment on that, but you can almost, as you learn to trade, and I wish somebody taught me that, as I learned to trade, collateralize with BNB or with Bitcoin. I mean, because I started leverage trading when Bitcoin was like $3,000 a coin. And I could have just put $3,000 in there and learned. And as the value goes up, I've got more equity to lose on my path to figuring it out. The flip side is true, however, as well. If it drops, your equity becomes less. And you could, if you leverage to your head, you could end up getting margin calls. So, you're still going to have to treat that responsibly. But that's the nice play. And that's the way that I used most of my leverage trading on for this cycle. When Bitcoin's around 15, 16, I started buying up all my spot, collateralized that, used that, and it kind of grew up so that I end up holding that BNB, that Bitcoin, all the way to where it's at right. And I'm myself, everybody knows on the channel, I'm out. I don't own any Bitcoin at the moment. I sold. So that's it. I own a little bit, okay, but pretty much sold, for that reason. So I'm waiting for that bargain, waiting for that real test the nerves kind of thing to buy back in, as we know.
Yeah.
But let's have a look at some of our BNB plays on that BNB note, because for those that don't know, guys, just real quick, follow Wizzard. He's on Twitter. His handle is Wizzard of Alt with underscores, if I'm not
at Wizzard _of_alt. Yeah,
the link's in the video description already, so you can just click on the video description, you'll find it there. And for those that's on Twitter watching, I mean, we retweeted the thing with each other's handles on there, so make sure to give him a follow. And just as a kind reminder, the video is brought to you by one of our channel sponsors. So let's use this moment to just announce there's videos brought to you by Primex BT for today. So if you bring that up, Peter, I'll quickly just swap this out. And my Primex BT long from this morning is up $1,000 already. So it is looking okay so far. I'm recovering from yesterday's headache. I screwed up with Blowfin and I got myself liquidated almost instantly. I trade heavy leverage on Prime for a reason, deep pockets and Blowfin is nice for the small coins. And I decided yesterday or the day before to switch that around, and I am really angry at my Blowfin account, which I am subsequently also in a Bitcoin long in the same area, give or take a few dollars. But there you have it, guys. So if you want to trade with me, all you need to do is just in the links or head over to the Discord. Everything is there, and my buddy indicator gets made available to anybody that's got a link on any of these exchanges. You just need to go to the Discord and claim your access. It's as simple as that. There you have it. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, let's talk BNB coins. I'm going to bring back your screen because you're the BNB OG here, guys, and everybody is hungry for some BNB plays. So can we maybe start off with the no-brainer call for today that I think everybody was expecting us to get charted, and that was ASTER. Do you mind if we can have a look at that one?
We do, because I am currently long ASTER, and I think this is the power of technical analysis. As I charted this out back, I think we were up here. It seems to have just respected every level. So the way I played it, so I didn't get into ASTER down here. I got my first entry on this retest here and began scaling out as we came here. And then when I was looking for this as a retest, this here felt the obvious one. I didn't take it, and as you can see, we had a couple of little bumps. But what I really liked was this really strong pocket of volume here that I thought we would see some sort of reaction. If I'm being critical about myself, and this is why you journal, etc., I went a little high on my entry because my entry was 158. In hindsight, I'd have looked a little bit further down this wick. As you can see, there was quite a nice pocket just below at 150, like 153, 151. but that's why we journal our trades. And then had this nice run up to retest this, tapped into there. And then I was out of this. I didn't get any of the short back down. I waited until we played around here. And this was an area, this was sort of my do or die area that I had. I thought if we come down here, this little volume pocket, we would probably see some sort of reaction. I didn't have an order in because as you should do, if there's a liquidation cascade on the way, don't even try and catch it with leverage. Just move all your bids out of the way. Move all your bids out of the way. And then, so I patiently waited for this retest and got this here. And I'm still long on it. I took some profits here. I was tempted to replay it, but I left it alone. So I've now got, I think I've got about 60% of the trade left carrying now. So hopefully a nice retest of this blue line. I wouldn't target any major upside until we break and close above this blue line. As you can see, certainly on the 4 hour, the only times we've really closed above it are when we pushed here. And that for me feels like a liquidity grab. I can't get excited about this thing going to $4 or $5 until we have some really good closes above this blue line.
And that's also a psychological level because, from an auction theory point, your $1, your $2 are strong negotiation points for the market.
Yeah.
Just for any general retail sentiment to just say, hey, we're above $2 now. Okay, so 3 is a possibility. But as long as you're kind of just tickling the bottom of 2, so we're at 2, but we're not above it yet, it creates doubt from a purely retail buyer sentiment. Let's not make the retail out to be complete idiots. We all understand on a psychological level, without even knowing that these price points are there when we negotiate over something.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I really like this. I think it moves quite well. Certainly the way that I trade and the strategy I trade in terms of the level system, it feels like it really does respect it. So it is quite a fun token to trade. Obviously, the moves that can be quite fierce at times. As you can see, those candles there are pretty aggressive. But on the whole, it feels like it moves. I quite like the way it moves, certainly as a way to trade.
So while we're on that topic, let's quickly share. Everybody comments real quick. Where are you listening? Where are you tuning in from? I see Nikhil is already asking, are you from South Africa? I am. But Wizzard, you're not from
I am not. I am from the United Kingdom. Yeah.
Let everybody know where we are because we guys aren't South African. It's just one guy. The rest, and Peter in the background there on the phone is from Slovenia. I like catching him like that. He's always multitasking. He's a very busy guy there. He was running down a mountain to be in time for today's stream. So yeah, Nikhil says he's from Zimbabwe. Okay, awesome. Not that far from us. Nice and warm in Zimbabwe. I'm at the southern end of South Africa, so it's kind of cold still. But yeah, Daniel from Australia. Their day is done. They're done for the day. Taking profits already. So on ASTER, let's just quickly have a look at ASTER. So this is my play, and this is a trick that I've picked up over the years that plays out really well. I can show you a couple of examples of this. So I like it when they go to big exchanges, but because you get this launch wick that occurs. And typically what you will find is once we start breaking out, so a trend line doesn't make a trading strategy, guys. Let's just be honest with you guys, but it's a way to track momentum. Okay, so once this bearish momentum kind of peters out and maybe we grind sideways, all these targets that you're looking at, maybe we go to $2 and come and turn this into support. The infinite array of how the price can move is irrelevant. But what we typically do is we go and visit that 50% of that wick price action. So we're looking at $2.50 now, because $2.50 is also a half number. So you work in half, you work in quarters and full numbers from auction theory. It does prove to be a nice sticky take profit point. Now, an example of that, I think the last one we could use probably would be Hyperliquid. it would be a really good example of that. We actually utilize that, I think, very nicely. So you create your launch wick, 50% of the launch wick. That's the area where price then kind of becomes sticky. Okay. We can look at SUI. SUI did exactly the same. Let's just quickly load SUI. It was a big play, brought it to you guys quite early on. I'm going to go SUI buy bit on spot and zoom out for you guys. Let's go just weekly. There's obviously a little bit more price action there. No, it's not on this one. It's on Binance then. Let's quickly see. Let's load that one. It was there, man. I just opened my eyes. Okay, so there you have it. There's your launch wick. 50%, that's where it traps the most of the markets. So once you surpass that, typically your gains don't really get locked in, and then you will go and retest these longer lows for that. HBAR did it. A lot of these coins. I mean, if you zoom out to HBAR, not yet again. I'm clicking on ones that don't have the launch wick on the particular screen. Let's have a look at it. Leave 0. But in any case, you get the point. I mean, Say will probably be a good example of that. This one was exceptionally strong, but there you go. You hit that launch wick, 50%. That's typically where a lot of take profit occurs. And in this case, it just kept on running. But that's trading. You never quite know. You don't have guarantees. So my play for ASTER in that way is also looking at. If I'm looking at this from a weekly point of view, if you get the breakout buy right now and we start trending up again strong, the CZ narrative is strong. I almost expect that $2 resistance zone will get taken out, with the argument that it's not going to do it in a straight line, but that would be my first end game to get rid of some ASTER, some long-term take profits. Let's over to the comments. Nick Pompey says he's moved from Spain to England. I've had problems finding UK platforms to trade. Can you give me any advice? Oh, buddy, no advice on this channel, but I also don't know what exchanges. Blofen worked. What are you trading on, Wizzard?
I trade on quite a mixture, but I trade on a Palau ID. But I like Prime. I don't think Prime has bots though. So traditionally, yeah, I mean, Blofen has bots. I tend to like Dexes. One of my main accounts is KuCoin, but I'm in a weird spot where, because I've had my KuCoin account for so long, they've never asked for KYC, and I've never had to give them it, and I don't particularly want to give them it, but I believe KuCoin is now KYC for UK.
They're going to get you because they asked me about a month ago.
Oh.
So they're getting round to it. Okay, so I was in that same area back in the day where you just clicked and you had an exchange,
Yeah.
So Bybit has bots as well, I would imagine, but I don't know whether Bybit would be available for you guys in Spain.
Yeah. No, Bybit not for the. But and Bybit have cracked down on Palau. I mean, to be honest, I think the best bet is something like a Blowfin, something that's non KYC. If you've not got a Palau ID, if you've not got a Palau ID, I strongly recommend getting one. I think it's like $200 a year, and it's There
you have it. Thanks, Wizzard. There you have it, Nick. You sorted. Okay, I'm going to bring back your screen. Let's talk about some more smaller, less famous, if we would rather, if we can use that.
I've got one more famous. I think one that's been in the news. I don't particularly trade it, but we obviously have a friend who quite likes this one. Is STBL.
Okay, STBL. Yeah, I didn't think of that one for today's stream. Okay.
I'm starting to get interested in it. It feels like we're accumulating quite nicely here. For me, from a levels play, I'd like to see it gain and hold above this level before, but there's some really interesting spots. So I think first of all, you've got obviously this 17 cents as a close, but it's left quite a lot of interesting areas to move up. Yeah, this is one that I wouldn't day trade. If I was going to trade this one, I'd swing trade and I'd keep. I think from a trading perspective, you've probably got a fairly good risk reward on here, because if you essentially you could invalidate below this wick, and if you're targeting a retest of the highs, you still get your good risk reward, or you go a little bit tighter and aim for a little pullback under here, get here, and you can potentially look at some entries down the wick. Yeah, it's not one that I would be trading at a high frequency level, but I think for a swing it's probably quite good.
Yeah, I'm also, I share that same sentiment. The reason being, for if you go to the left-hand side of your screen, you know, that original launch dump low scenario there, you know, typically you don't want them to fall below it. If you go to Celestia as a good example of another fractal play, once you fall below below that level, even doesn't matter how bullish you are on it, you know, it tends to open the door for price discovery for where's the bargain. So, you know, that's Celestia is way past that. Maybe move just to the left-hand side of the screen a bit so the guys can see. Yeah, there you go. So as soon as you start closing below that, you know, it starts creating that question: is this now a floor, or is this yet again another ceiling to something that's probably overvalued at this stage? So, so my thoughts would be, for anybody on stable, is just to, if you reclaim that 13-cent range, you know, where it's at right now, it's trying to do that. That would typically be, I'll bring up my screen real quick. So if you can reclaim that then will open the door. And this is really fast. You know, this screams emotional market cycle, if ever there was one. But we know that what needs to happen is it needs to be flat now. And we're not that flat with this one yet. So I like it. Definitely it needs to be up the list there. But probably, Okay, over to your next big deal there. Let's quickly have it go.
I think so. The one that's on, so there's two I think that are really sort of in your face. So I think Cake is one. I landed a very beautiful long on this. I want to say a couple of weeks ago. I rode it up to $4.50 from down here. I had an alert that it was retesting a horizontal. Lo and behold, it came back, tested, and went. I quite like this. I think, again, from a levels perspective, it respects it. You had an interesting back test here. I wouldn't, depending on how you want to trade it, I wouldn't be longing it here. I'd potentially probably try and wait for it to retest here. And I think a retest of this level here would be quite bullish, given it's been previous resistance. But ultimately, this is the main DeFi protocol on BNB. If you believe that BNB will have more of a renaissance on chain, as we saw with the meme coin frenzy that occurred last week, that was basically went on for 3 days before everyone got rugged. It's I think it's an interesting play. I like DeFi. It tends to be where I gravitate most of my attention towards. Again,
DeFi, for me, has to a coin, if I want to hold it, has to make sense. And I understand the sense of community for the memes and stuff, but you know, how do you monetize a community without then, you know, losing what the community is about? So I like the DeFi side of things as well. So I can agree with you on that.
Yeah, ultimately, I like stuff that makes money, because I think a lot of these tokens don't have that pathway to revenue. And yeah, I mean, if you look at Cake on the weekly, you potentially got a lot of upside.
It smells banana coin. Yeah, it's got a little whiff of banana in the air there. I don't know if you guys can smell it. I can smell a little bit of banana there. So it does look like it. Now, you know what we do know from a technical analysis point of view, there's two rules, or one rule actually, to buying in on something is you need to have good fundamentals and you need to have good technicals at that stage. And then when you're near the top, you throw fundamentals away, because great projects, great whatever it is, will remain great, but the price will not support that greatness. That's it. That's just the thing. That's why we had to and focused on learning technical analysis. So you know, you've been raving on it from what it is, you know, from a DeFi and everything around that. I mean, Cake was really a big deal right at the beginning, but that's an extreme overvaluation for what was a previous alt season that was insane, you know, in that regard. But technical analysis wise, Wyckoff basically tells us the longer the building of the cause, the longer the accumulation effect is, the more the markup will be afterwards.
Yeah.
And so the longer we stay in this range, so maybe it's not moving just yet. Once we do get out with a sign of strength and we start building in this area, that means that price will gravitate to bigger pushes up. So yeah, let's hope that this thing stays here for a little bit longer, and then you can even dream bigger. So that's it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if people want a good example of something like that, I think Zcash is the perfect example of that pattern that Rudo's just mentioned. So look at that. Years and years of accumulation before
and now. And the problem with that years of accumulation is I don't have any Zcash for that reason, because it's like dead money. It's not doing anything. So why hold it? So that's the trader curse. So if you don't have a diversified wallet that says, well, this wallet is supposed to be numb and dumb for a while, you end up missing out on this, because this thing is now, yet again, it's turning into another 9999 moment.
And people chase at this point. Yeah, and you get people chasing. It's interesting. I think the other large one on here that's interesting, and this is one that I've been plays the levels again perfectly, is LISTA. Obviously, LISTA again is DeFi on BNB.
On BNB,
and again, really nice upward accumulation here before push up, grab, back down, reaccumulate, and then pushed up and cleared here. It's interesting. Again, we talk about some of the manipulation. It's interesting that the wick came back down exactly to where the impulse started, as a correlatory point of view. But I think this one is probably something now that we see maybe grind down a little bit to grab some more here. This now probably gives you some nice liquidity on the upside to aim at up here.
I quite like LISTA. I've got it here on my list as well. I have to agree with you. As soon as you start zooming in on the 4 hour, it does look. Can you maybe quickly have a look at the weekly daily? Just give the viewers the perspective of what you've got there.
So that's the weekly. As you can see, come down, test, as you said, come down and test. I think that's more than 50% of the wick, but that's where we found that bottom, and then beginning to push up on the weekly, and daily you can see a little bit more of that volatility.
And this speaks a lot like to the chart we were looking at ASTER early. It's following what we expect ASTER to do. So you can see it's going to be a choppy ride. It's not going to be a nice, clean, big green, or in your case, a pink or white candle that's just going to push up. It's going to be a messy journey. So having this on leverage, or trying to get this on a blowfin future and ride it all the way to there is typically very hard for that reason.
Yeah, they make it difficult to hold leverage on these, because ultimately that's
like the no-brainer play. You just buy a little bit on leverage and you're going to be rich soon.
Exactly. And I think that's, as well, going a little bit off tangent, it's quite interesting, because some of the conversations that I've been hearing from the exchange, and one of the reasons why the liquidation wick was as brutal as what it was, is a real problem, both in TradFi, but also very much in crypto, is there's a real issue in exchanges of these low leverage longs.
They're promoting this stuff like crazy, and it is, and it's crazy the amount of coins that can get listed, and then next week they're no longer there because the volume wasn't big enough. So they're no longer trying to gateways for you to access these coins in a more secure way. In a way, it's a casino. That's what they're chasing. This casino.
Yeah. And they had the real issue of, because you've got so many people who will buy stuff on a 2x or a 3x, it's very hard to liquidate them. But similarly, if we do have an upwards move, there's not enough liquidity on the other side to settle the trades, and so it posed a bit of an existential threat to some of the exchanges, especially people who have managed to get it really low. If you've got an altcoin really low on 2 or 3x, and you say if you've got this thing on 2 or 3x here, that is a massive risk. that's a massive risk for the exchange, because essentially then unless we come down and basically go to about 6 cents, your upside is basically uncapped at that point, and it's a liability bill for the exchange or whoever's on the other side of the trade that could go horrendously wrong.
That's what happened to me on Monday with my Bitcoin long, but in short, based on that. So what happens is the exchange calculates and sees, well, even if we let this thing go down lower, we won't find buyers for you, and then they forcibly liquidate you, maybe in profit even for that matter. But they will liquidate you because they're not allowed to carry any drawdown. They're not financial institutions. No. They can't give you credit other than what it is there. So that's the hardship with these things, is they sometimes hurt you more. And the reason I don't trade S coins was because of SPX that basically liquidated an account for me. Funny enough, and I just said, well, I'm not going to touch an S again. for that reason, that's what happened to me on FTX. Funny enough, when FTX was just not an insider that creates news, FUD, that either pumps or dumps coins. His name is the 2 Pauper. I'll quickly bring up his Twitter handle. He is a Ikimoko. I should actually bring him on the stream for you guys because he's a genius with Ikimoko Cloud. 2, let's quickly get him out, get his account. There it is. I'm going to bring up my screen there. So this guy basically at that stage explained to me that the FTX at this stage had the least amount of market manipulation. So if you wanted to hold these long-term leverage positions, that's where you needed to go for that run. So interesting guy, was really in the know with these kind of things. He was the FUD creator on some of these big projects. So yeah, interesting. Okay, over to LISTA then. So your prediction then for LISTA. So let's just round this one up because we went off topic like crazy.
Yeah. So LISTA, I think it wouldn't surprise me if we see a wider alt cool off for it to potentially come back down and retest here, or maybe the gap in between. Some of the reason being that because we've seen so much price action in here, I'm not sure it needs to come here. However, when you look above, that is a really interesting zone, particularly because there's not actually been a huge amount of price action in there. It moves quite quickly. I tend to, an interesting thing I quite like doing is particularly on sort of higher, medium to higher timeframes, is if you find a spot in the chart and you go across in a box and it has a lot of fair value gaps in it, you tend to find that price gravitates towards that, but will more often than not move very quickly through there. So you can find some quite nice trades on things that will move through there quite quickly.
Yeah, that's a really nice way of looking at it, because then you want a trade to be out of your buy zone once you take it. So you can cover and reduce the risk. It's simple as that. If it hovers at entry the whole bloody day long, like my Bitcoin long at this stage is just hovering above entry, I get uncomfortable with this, so I'm currently about $500 in profit there. And on Blowfin, I am not that much in profit. I bought a little bit higher there, but it kind of swings to the argument that we're going to sweep down low, maybe 10,800 again before we move to the upside, that kind of thing, because it's not things that go up. Let's maybe head over to a few more coins. We're running out of time. We're about 48 minutes.
Yeah, so I'll go through very quickly because I've got some nice ones on the list. So after that, not strictly BNB ecosystem, but there's BNB people involved. It's a DeFi protocol that I really love, called Cow. Highly recommend checking out. It's Binance incubated.
Cow. I'm going to add
Cow protocol. Yeah, it's actually got a very good product. So Cow Swap is a really good Ethereum DeFi protocol. It's made by, it's got a lot of Uniswap involvement in. So there's a lot of Uniswap people who are involved in this. The technology behind it is really good. If anyone's into DeFi and likes all the technology, it's really good. Batches orders together. Also, whenever you see the orange men buy Ethereum tokens, they use Cow. It's very sort of institutionalized. I'll leave that up because I've got quite a long list that we can run through. So yeah, that is Cal. I like Cal.
Okay.
Those are my levels that I'm looking at.
Quite like that one. Yeah, we can. Okay, cool. For me, yeah, I think yet again, it's looking good. 17, probably you've got us 20 cents there. Yeah, so I'll be probably looking at around 17 for that one. If we push down low, if we go on higher, the support needs to be 26. So it needs to get above that monthly level. I think you've got there at around 25, 600. And if it can consolidate above that, then to that pivot, that gold line, 48 cents. There's a potential. Cool.
That gold line, it moves quickly. Yes, so I like Cal. I don't have it charted, I don't believe, on this one, but I quite like ARKM. Anyone who's I quite like using their products. Obviously, it's Binance owned now. Interesting that it come back to essentially where it was for the impulse. I think this will be really interesting as it appeals a lot to institutions. I think certainly understanding what is happening on the blockchain will be quite paramount. And I think as we see more and more institutional adoption, this will be a service that's used a lot more, both by governments, but also by banks and institutions. I think from a price perspective, we talk about the area of consolidation. It's had a really nice period of accumulation, so it wouldn't surprise me to see this have quite an aggressive run.
Whenever I hear the word ARKM, I cringe a bit because in the end of the day, they contacted me right in the beginning. Hey, you mind doing some seed investing? And I missed the bus on that one because I was looking at the message and it was like in the bear market and it's like, I'm not too sure. And do I have the free cash? And, and then it went like to $4. So I would have made a killing on that one. And so forth. So ARKM, for me, if you look at the screen, has the same long accumulation that's taking effect. And this could be the shakeout. So typically, a phase C shakeout. So if this is now the beginnings of an accumulation period, there would be your phase A. Which would end around there. Now you're building your cores, and now you have your shakeout, your phase C. So typically what will happen from that accumulation pattern is you need to reclaim this level really quickly. So between 38 and 42 is what needs to be support for ARKM. So your risk reward ratio on this is very good because it's quite close to invalidation because it needs to get above that. If it starts trading in the wick, a week's time from now, dump it, because then it's probably not what it needs to be doing. It's not going through the accumulation. It's going to turn into Celestia again. And then from that point onwards, you want to see a trend within the range. So now you want to see a trend form between 70 and let's just make that resistance because that's your phase D. So this is your first investor buying opportunity for ARKM. And then your second one will be gravitating around this midpoint, your axis. That will be your second one, somewhere in your phase D. And then from that point, when you have that sign of strength, that's the last time you can long-term swing by. That's your phase E. That's your markup out of range. And that's when you want to hope for moon. That's when the larger targets, like $1.40, $2, come back into potential play. Even if it just goes there and wicks and dies back down. But that is what that function is. So I quite like this one. Thanks for bringing this up. And it's not BNB, but it is it's affiliated with them in that regard.
Which other ones? I don't think I've got this chart on the layout either, but Cyber, this is a bit of a darling of CZ, as you can see. Actually, no, it's behind, but yeah, it's up 15% today. This thing has just been royally beaten up again. I think there's a few things like this. I don't know if I'd leverage trade this, but I wouldn't. I've leverage traded it in the past. I don't think I would. These are the types of things where I think if you're looking for those moonshot 5, 6, 7, 8x's on spot, potentially a bet. It's still quite active. I know that they're doing a lot of marketing campaigns. I've seen a lot of chatter of various sort of KOL deal flows around this. Being a Binance coin, it will probably get a squeeze at some point because I imagine there'll be a lot of people who want to get out. And these things are one of those where I think it's either a project that will begin to run up, or if it's a project that people are stuck in, they will engineer some sort of exit pump. And if you can get out on an exit pump, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, typically, yet again, those wicks, that's the beginning. Those exit wicks, they do give nice exit pumps. I'm now trying to remember the argument of the last coin that had a nice exit pump on it. I can't.
I had a really beautiful one on BNB. That was
Okay.
my next one. Is
Bring it on. Let's
Bake.
see. There you have it.
Bake. Yeah, and this one, I've got a couple that I put into the basket. I really like Baker. These are the types of ones that I think I wouldn't go in heavy, I wouldn't go in leveraged, but if you have some spare funds sitting in an exchange, or you put a DCA to buy a tiny amount each day, almost like a lottery ticket, because ultimately these are the types of things that, if push comes to shove and they do go again, will give you the 50, 60, 70 X's unleveraged. As you can see, we had this exit pump. I'd been accumulating down here. I had some sell orders up here. So it got out quite well. Obviously, this chart looks fairly horrendous, and we're back to here.
As long as we stay above that, that's the key now. Because otherwise, we start going into price discovery on what is a fair price for this, what is support for Bank. So it's cheap regarding risk to reward ratio, because once it does fall below that, you almost need to say that it's going to have to hurt for way longer before there will be more upside.
Yeah, and there's a couple of these that I think to be quite interested in. Is I have heard chatter about potentially things like this. What you'll tend to have is that the token will get relaunched under a different name. It'll go under a rebrand. It'll launch under a different ticker. It'll be the same contract address. And typically you'll have that as a way to have another one of these euphoria pumps again. It gives a very good opportunity to get leverage out.
Say that again.
It gives a good opportunity to get leverage out. It gives a lot of opportunity for people to really gain the supply quite controlled. And as we know, new and shiny does very well in the market. Everyone loves something new and shiny.
Yeah, because if you look at it from this point over, it's like, okay, you're selling me something that's died.
Yeah.
If you can delete that pre-bull market success, it's not died. It's a new thing. So those optics does play a big role. So okay, well that's some nice inside info on Bake there.
So fresh
the rebrand.
Chart. This one falls under a similar boat. I can't really go into like what's happened on this on stream, but there was some issues behind the scene. This was a rebrand. So this was a rebrand of, I don't know if anyone traded Frontier. Here it is, Front Tether. I think you still got the old chart. But this SLF was a rebrand of this. Obviously, this began to die, so it rebranded and went. For me, I think it's sat. The market cap on this is ridiculous now. I think this is sat like $1 million market cap. So again, very much this is a casino play. It's a buy. If it does something, you're looking at probably quite a few X's. I wouldn't go in heavy on this. I wouldn't go in heavy on any one token in particular.
And it's a coin that starts with an S, guys. So just
but they did raise quite a lot of money. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Another DeFi protocol that has recently rebranded but hasn't launched a new ticker is 1inch. I'm surprised at how badly beaten up this thing is.
It took a lot of hit. It was really, 1inch kind of, yes, it did well. Right off the get-go, 1inch was really popular. Cool name, always at the top of the list. But you don't know what the new name will be.
No, exactly. What else do I have? This is an interesting one. I've been buying a little bit of this over the last few days. If I get this off the weekly and onto the daily, is Gata, Gata. I believe it's an AI. It's an AI play, but it's incubated by YZE Labs, which is obviously CZ's play. This currently, I think, sits at about a $20 million market cap. Only available spot as well, which I always quite like stuff that's only available spot because you get less manipulation on it. Again, risk reward feels like there's quite good reward. You can intraday trade it if you wanted to try and get the 15% moves that it produces each day. I wouldn't advise it. It feels more like a swing play, but you've got some nice levels to aim up here. You've obviously got a reclaim of this, a reclaim of this here, and then I think once you break above, you just got pure liquidity. But this for me screams like the type of thing that will eventually just, you'll see Binance new listing, Gata, and you'll see everyone chasing.
Yeah, I like that that launch wick yet again. If it does, and even when it does run, you've got this thing all the way back to at least 12 cents minimum. So quite like that. Nearly got there already in the first go.
Yeah, 6x unleveraged if it does.
There you go, 6x. Guys, let's quickly, I want to hear your thoughts. Falcon Finance. I've got a question here from Dennis, and then we probably need to wrap it up because we're over an hour again. So YouTube's going to hate me they don't like it when you go over an hour with the stream. But Falcon Finance, let's quickly, your thoughts on that one.
I've not really looked at, I'm short because I followed you in on the short. I took a short entry at 18 cents as we discussed on the stream.
Live trading, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know too much about it, to be honest. So I can't really speak too much on what it is or what it does. I think from a chart perspective, the short lined up, as we said. I've not actually got it charted. I've just taken
I've got a chart here for you guys. We can quickly have a look at this. So yeah, we were hunting for the short there at around there, that area there. Yeah. I have to say, sadly, I didn't close it. I mean, I wish I was out already. I mean, I was thinking, we're building a base. It's going to start going. What was it that Stack said? Falcons don't stay on the ground for long. We had the whole rhyme around it. We were really optimistic on this one. And then we retested this area. And this was last week, Friday. When was it? Yeah. Tuesday. Right, yeah. We were sitting right there and I said, well, there you have it. You've got hidden bearish divergence. And there's the higher high on the RSI. It's a screaming sell again. And do I think we're going to sweep these lows? No, I would imagine that Falcon's going to try and stay above 10 cents. So anywhere around that, maybe 9.3. You don't want it to fall below that demand zone again, because then this is just a downwards trending coin. That's it. There's nothing to it. So I imagine price is going to want to try and squeeze as many people out of it. So I will look to go long only there, to be honest.
Yeah. What else do I have? A token. It's not launched yet. And full disclosure, I am seed investor in it. But there's a BNB project that I like called REVEEL. REEVEEL. I think the Twitter ticker is
something we can look at.
Yeah. If I get it's got an X page, which I will get up. Because the X page is spelt a little bit weirdly. But I really liked this project when it was put in front of me. I put this on this screen and I'll reshare my screen. Stop screen, share screen, share window. If I can find it. This is where I find comment tab. Here we are.
Guys, you know what to do. You like it to subscribe, give us a follow, and yeah, there we go. There it's back. REVEEL. Okay.
Yeah.
So REVEEL. Okay, nice. Get it. Let's go and pick it up on Twitter real quick. Okay, so give us the crypto notes on this one.
So it's a stable coin play. So it's a payments in messages. So it's in message payments. The backers on it are quite good. It's got quite strong backing. Obviously, it's a CZ project. So it'll be going straight into Binance Wallet. So yeah, I think this is one to keep an eye on. It's not TGE'd yet. I think there is stuff that you can do to earn into a prize pool. So there's some early activities. But yeah, it's quite an interesting payments play.
Okay, makes for an interesting one. So there you have it, guys. I will drop the link to this as well in the Discord under the research room, guys. So bring up my screen real quick to show you guys. In the research room there, I will drop the new link for you guys to that as well, so you can go pick it up there. That's it. I think we need to cut it, but next time we'll bring you back, and then it will be a 20-minute stream, because now we've done the intros, everybody knows, and then we'll get to the time. And Peter at the back there doesn't believe me at all, because I always say I want to make the videos shorter, but I end up always running this thing into the hours. So there we have it. Wizzard, thanks so much for taking the time, my friend. I've got a few coins that I wanted to share with you guys as well. We're going to have to do a revisit on this, because there's still a few of the coins on my list that I was looking at that I wanted to share with you. So maybe we'll do a retake on this maybe in a week's time or so, and then I can reciprocate some more BNB plays with you guys. If not, if you guys want to get those lists now, that's already been published in the Discord, so you can go pick it up there. Thanks so much, Wizzard. Where can they find you? Twitter, YouTube?
Twitter, YouTube. Yeah, just Wizard of Alt. I think I'm the only Wizard of Alt. If you get asked for money, it's not me. But yeah, Wizard of Alt on most socials.
Great stuff. There you have it, guys. Thanks so much for taking the time, joining with us. About 230 people for a stream that we don't normally do live. That, I think, is a good number, Peter. Yeah, I think we need to call this now. And thanks so much, guys. See you next time. Cheers.
Thanks.